He said no one cares. I destroyed his $60 million acquisition deal. I've been holding this in for a while because it's the kind of story that sounds made up when you tell it out loud. But I lived it. I was there. And sometimes I still can't believe how far I let things get before I finally snapped. For context, I worked at this mid-sized tech company for 14 years. I wasn't some intern they picked up off the street. I basically helped build the damn place from the ground up. I was the one making sure operations ran smoothly, client accounts didn't slip through the cracks, and that the product actually delivered on the promises sales and marketing were constantly throwing out there. I never had the flashiest job title, but everyone in the office knew I was the person you went to when things had to get done. When our old CEO retired, the board decided to bring in this hotshot named Jared. He had a big resume, worked at a couple of flashy startups, lots of buzzwords on his LinkedIn. But the truth was he never stayed anywhere more than 2 or 3 years. He knew how to sell himself, but he didn't know how to stay in the trenches and actually build something lasting. At first I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he just had a different style. But it didn't take long before he started undermining me in meetings, dismissing my input, and trying to replace systems I had set up years ago with new ones he barely understood. He loved hearing himself talk. Loved pointing out inefficiencies that weren't even real problems. The guy would walk around with this permanent smirk like he was already bored with us. The moment I knew things were going downhill was one morning when he called this big all-hands meeting by the espresso machine. He made everyone crowd around while he explained his vision for the future. He wanted to take the company to the next level and start prepping for a huge acquisition deal. He kept throwing out numbers like 50 million, 60 million, like it was monopoly money. And right in the middle of it, he turned to me and said, "We don't need to do things the old way anymore. We need to evolve. No one cares about the little details." I swear the entire office went silent. 14 years of keeping the ship afloat, and this guy reduced it to no one cares. He said it right in front of 30 employees, some of whom I trained myself. I remember standing there with my coffee in hand, staring at him, and just feeling my face burn. That was the moment he castrated every ounce of pride I had in the work I'd done. I should have walked out then. But instead, something inside me decided to wait. I don't know if it was pettiness, hurt pride, or just the desire to prove a point. But I decided I wasn't going to let him get away with it. Over the next few months, Jared kept bragging about this acquisition deal. A huge national firm was apparently ready to buy us out for 60 million. He'd have these late-night calls, strut around the office like he was a king, talk about how visionary leadership was finally paying off. What he didn't realize was that I was the one fielding the background requests, the client reports, the audits. I was the one feeding information to the lawyers and the bankers. And he kept treating me like I was invisible. So I stopped protecting him. When the acquisition firm asked for compliance reports, I gave them exactly what they wanted, without massaging the data like Jared kept insisting. When they wanted to talk to key clients, I didn't cherry-pick the happy ones. I put them in touch with the ones who were still furious about late rollouts, bugs, and broken promises. When they wanted to see long-term projections, I handed them my honest numbers instead of Jared's inflated nonsense. It wasn't sabotage in the sense of lying or making things worse. I just stopped covering for him. I stopped being the cushion that kept this company looking better than it really was. And when you remove the cushion, people fall hard. The cracks started showing fast. Calls that were supposed to be routine turned into grilling sessions. Clients Jared swore were locked and expressed doubts. Compliance reports flagged inconsistencies that had been brushed off before. By the time the acquisition team came on site for due diligence, the air in the office felt like a funeral. Everyone could feel it slipping away. A week later, Jared came into the office looking pale. He gathered the leadership team and said the deal was off. The acquiring firm pulled out. He tried to spin it, say the timing wasn't right, but we all knew what it really was. They saw the truth. They saw the mess he was too arrogant to admit existed. A few days after that, he cornered me in the break room. He asked if I had said anything out of line during the process. I looked him straight in the eye and told him I only gave them the facts. Nothing more, nothing less. He stared at me for a long time and then muttered, "You don't get it. No one cares about the details." And I swear I laughed. Not a loud laugh, but the kind that comes out when you realize you've been holding something in for way too long. I told him, they cared. They cared enough to walk away from 60 million. And then I walked out. Within 6 months, he was gone. The board pushed him out after the failed deal tanked morale and scared away investors. They tried to talk me into staying, but I was done. I gave them 14 years. I wasn't going to give them 15. I don't know if what I did counts as revenge or just refusing to lie anymore. But it still feels like justice. He said no one cares. And I proved to him that the little details, the ones I spent over a decade caring about, were the difference between a 60 million payday and nothing. Sometimes I wonder if I burned a bridge I could have just walked away from quietly. But when I think back to that morning, standing by the espresso machine with 30 people watching while he cut me down, I realize I wouldn't change a thing. Because for once in my career, I made someone like him face the consequences of his own arrogance. And that's worth more to me than any payout could have been.